Okay.
There's a verse in Elizabeth Alexander's praise song for the day, a poem for Barack Obama's presidential inauguration, that reads, "We encounter each other in words, words spiny or smooth, whispered or declaimed, words to consider, reconsider." For over 50 years, Quincy Troupe has treated us to a feast of words to consider and reconsider, loud and proud, whispered and smooth. Like many of his literary foremothers and fathers and even his peers, Troupe's writing can be found in the Schomburg's collections. Out front of the Benzine exhibition, we have 2 pop-up cases featuring work by Maya Angelou, as well as Quincy Troupe, some of his earlier work. That also includes a children's book, which I did not realize that he also wrote a children's book in verse. So I highly recommend taking a chance to take a look at those items. But of course, here at the Schomburg Center, you can always revisit us and take those books out and have a chance to read them here in the Schomburg. Tonight is also a feast for the ears, and later when you buy the book, a feast for your eyes. Poets Dr. Rashidah Ismaili and Trinidad-born poet Mervyn Taylor will share the stage with Quincy Troupe, and 2 incredible musicians, Lonnie Plaxico on bass and Kelvyn Bell on guitar. Holding us together as we navigate the evening is multimedia artist, poet, and novelist Rachel Eliza Griffiths, who will introduce Quincy, and following our reading, sit down with him in conversation. Rachel is an incredible poet whose recent hybrid collection of poetry and photography, Seeing the Body, was a meditation and, for some of us, a lamentation for those who are working through grief and healing. Her other poetry collections include Lighting the Shadow, The Requited Distance, Mule and Pear, and Miracle Arrhythmia. Griffiths is a recipient of fellowships, including Cave Canem, Vermont Studio Center, Robert Rauschenberg Foundation, and Yaddo, just to name a few. She also has a forthcoming debut novel titled Promise. If all of our minds are clear, please welcome Rachel Eliza Griffiths to get us started.
Thank you so much for that, Novella. Good evening. Good evening. Yes, we are getting it warmed and ready here. Pulitzer Prize-winning author and brother Tyehimba Jess writes, Quincy Troupe is a hoodoo soothsayer of poetry whose iconic riffs peel across each page as they peel back layers of America's history. Reader, open this hefty Duende potion of jazz and sweat with caution, 'cause the swagger of each line might just drown you to save your life. Add to that Elder Ishmael Reed's truth-telling. The typical Troupe poem comes at the reader like a locomotive on fire, full of blazing and powerful imagery. Quincy Troupe is one of America's finest living African-American poets. His poetry collections include Enlarge, Snakeback Solos, Skulls Along the River, Weather Reports, Avalanche, Choruses, Transcircularities, which was the winner of the 2003 Milt Kessler Poetry Award, selected by Publishers Weekly as one of the 10 best poetry books of 2012. The Architecture of Language, which was the winner of the 2007 Patterson Poetry Prize for Sustained Literary Achievement, Errant Cities 2012, and his most recent collections, Ghost Voices and Seduction. Troupe was chosen by Miles Davis to write Miles, the autobiography, considered a milestone of contemporary jazz biography, and is the co-writer of The Pursuit of Happiness, which spent over 40 weeks at the New York Times bestseller list and was made into a major motion picture starring Will Smith. Most recently, Troupe published his own account of his friendship with Miles Davis, Miles and Me, which is being made into a film co-produced by Denzel Washington. Troupe is a spoken word performer with noted jazz artist, an alumnus of the Watts Writers Workshop associated with the Black Arts Movement, former California Poet Laureate, children's book author, and the longtime editor of Black Renaissance Noir. He lives in Harlem with his wife, Margaret Porter Troupe, an arts curator and educator. Here are the words of Honoré Fanon Jeffers. In this career-spanning collection, you don't just read Quincy Troupe's poetry. You are lifted by his word. You ride syllables and sound and glory. You grasp articulated root working. Know that you are traveling with mastery, the tongue's edge, high-strung, at the edge of the cliff. That's right. You understand there is no end to this man's brilliance. It is a profound pleasure for me to celebrate and to always praise the soul and living language of one of our truest poets, Quincy Troupe. So I will say that that is the formal professional biography of, words of Quincy's, but I met Quincy in 2014 and Margaret in Gloucester, Mississippi, and my encounters with Quincy have certainly changed my life and my understanding of what it means to live as a poet. I can't hear the word spirit or soul or hear the ideas of music and sound and a sense of the world that happens and is concrete and immediate in the blues and the glory and the sexiness and the sensuality and the birds and the bones, the dust and the gold that glitter and shine and resonate and radiate in Quincy Troupe's poetry. I'd like to share with you a poem that I selected to read for the poet and dear friend Lucille Clifton. One of the beautiful things that I find in Quincy's poetry is that he names us. He makes a map of living, of poets, places, events, history, memory, and it creates this living archive and artifact that we can revisit and kind of call and response with those who are living and those who are still present but not in this dimension and form. And for that, I am grateful. This is called Lucille, for Lucille Clifton. If you were a guitar, Lucille, B.B. King would play beautiful blues songs all over your ample spirit. But you're a poet, sister, so you play your own wondrous riffs. Through notes of your honed words, they dig down deep. Sewn within your music, boned, you keep them inside your brief, luminous sentences of echoes, sounding like sonorous utterings, flight-seeking light inside a flute's breath. Bird wings lifting on the wind's rustling flight. Your elliptic absences, pregnant with caesuras, arrest us with their sorrow. Winged loves, gone too fast from you now. Always test the elixir of your rooted deep faith. Everywhere in your poetry, the conviction of living spirits, beauty shining through the bravery of your life, is a bright, flashing beacon, pulsating harmony in all this darkness. Your embrace, warm as the sun during summer, it is your faith that holds me fast to you now. Inside your sweet, nourishing well of love, I know there is a river between us. We can always cross over. We can cross over it again and again and again. Can always cross over it with faith. Can always cross over it with love. Again and again and again, like you do, Lucille, like you do. Thank you. And now I am pleased as we begin to wade into the bright ocean of this evening, Dr. Rashidah Ismaili and the poet Mervyn Taylor, who will share words and incantations and poetry, and then we will keep this night moving into the bass notes and the blues songs and go from there. Thank you.
I want to echo everything that was said. Quincy and I share a friendship, familyhood of what, 40 years. And part of that time, it also includes Mervyn Taylor. I say that because friendships that form into families seem to be a bit rare these days. So it is a great honor to remember and to record that. I chose two short poems of Quincy. We share the love of narrative poetry, and you'll see wonderful examples of Quincy's narrations in this book. But I chose these two short poems because they're very lyrical and they're almost delicate. And I think they show a side of Quincy that we don't always acknowledge. A very poetic lyricism. Ghanaian song image. After rain, dark trees and ghost shadows sit upon shoulders of cotton mist. Memory. A lone candle burning, penetrating the dark, deepening memory. Pain, only a finger thought away. It's really beautiful. Only a finger thought away. It's very beautiful. And I chose to read of my own Dahomey Sister because Quincy, as you just heard, wrote a poem about Lucille Clifton. The background for this is that Lucille traced her ancestry to Dahomey. I was born in Cotonou, Dahomey, and I wrote this poem immediately after she died. It's called Dahomey Sister for Lucille Clifton. Your snow-framed face, chocolate-covering cheeks, lighted windows, your soul shines and tones shape the life you lead from ship to shore, from then to now. We said we'd meet when I went back and you would come, share a meal in my house, in my land, a land that binds us. And I am left now to wonder if your foremother was the one we lost, we mourn on Ancestral Day. We set our fruits for her, the one who rode the waves to where no one knows. But you, impetuous sister, would not wait, went on ahead without me. I wonder who directed your path. Perhaps she whose face and name goes unnamed came and led you safely home. Thank you.
Good evening, like the lady said. Good evening. Quincy and I go back to, I think, one of my first published poems, Quincy, Giant Talk at Random House. That was probably in the 70s. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's a pleasure to read in this wonderful edifice. And the first poem I'll read is one of mine called Reading in Bars. And Quincy will notice, too, that we have had to read in all kinds of places to be heard. I'll call some of the names, Quincy, but we have been everywhere to be heard. And to be in a place like this is wonderful. Reading in bars. And you'll recognize some of the people in here. I'll question you about it afterwards. I used to teach, so I can't help that. Reading in bars. From the back of the room, the blind man yells, "Read the damn poem." It's what he always says. Over by the bar, Amiri waits his turn, his back killing him. Newark, still a gleam in his eye. And there's Nate from the East Village, who once said he'd read in a toilet if he had to. The next reader, nervous, leaves a trail of pages in her wake. It reminds me of an event in Harlem where a near-naked girl danced on the bar, while in a back room we waited for them to turn down the music. Every time the doors swung open, there were her legs lifted to the ceiling. Still, we kept reading. And now here we are, poets waiting to be called. The dancer's name, Irene, forever in one of our poems. And I chose this poem by Quincy. It's a poem I read by him a long time ago. I forget in what anthology. And I'm not sure if it's in Duende. He'll tell you. I hope it is. It's called Texas Grass, In Texas Grass by Quincy Troupe. All along the railroad tracks of Texas, old train cars lay rusted and overturned like new African governments, long forgotten by the people who built and rode them till they couldn't run no more. They remind me of old racehorses who've been put out to pasture amongst the weeds, rain, sleet, and snow, till they die, rot away like photos fading in grandma's picture book of old black men in Mississippi, Texas, who sit on dilapidated porches that fall away like dead man's skin, like white people's eyes, and on the peeling photos, old men sit sad-eyed, waiting for worm dust, thinking of the master and his long-forgotten promise of 40 acres and a mule. And even now, if you pass across the bleeding flesh, ever-changing landscape, you will see the fruited countryside, stretching, old black men and young black men sitting on porches, waiting for rusted trains in Texas grass. Thank you, and congrats, Quinn. Thank you very much.
It's always wonderful to come to the Schomburg, and I've been coming here for years now. And so it's good to come here tonight and read from my new book, Duende. Duende. For Garcia Lorca and Miles Davis. It's in the bottomless power, magic of Duende, climbing stealthily from earth, wrapped inside secrets, mystery infused in black magic that enters bodies in the form of music, art, poetry imbuing language with sovereignty, in blood spooling back through violent centuries. Voices echoing ancient rise, voices echoing ancient Africa, rise. Thread now from skins of blessed sacred rituals. And people emerge from drums as heartbeats in time. Where memory is revived here and now through metaphor. When old voices find their way vibrating into song. Rhythms stitch forgotten sounds into language. And beat out of them that was beat out of them by whips on slave ships. And now bring back wonder of feet pounding. Now dance, dance, dance the Holy Ghost, lost in bloody homelands. Dance now, souls underneath, rise up through bodies. Spool back now with talisman, hypnotic. Pull ancient voodoo up in buckets filled with holy water. Evoke now memories, drinking from whodunit secrets. Whodunit secrets. Awakened now in poetry of Garcia Lorca, Andalusian dews, heard in Miles Davis's clues, vibrating anew, vibrating anew in sketches of Spain. A Dante blues there, a Dante blues there, vibrating anew sketches of Spain. All these poems are from Duende. Rhythms be switching in kitchens when cooks work magic through pots. And out on dance floors, hips be gyrating like poets constructing lines, sometimes switch and drop. From proper to colloquial, and new days here are forever changing. Color, weather, voices switch back and forth up in the sky. Down here, breezes be caressing bodies, sashay through thoroughfares into language. Doing whatever flip-flops it has to survive. And inside music, everything matters. A poet drops steps off the count, syncopating syllables, meters. The voice music falls over the edge of a cliff of chromatic scales. Shades splash bright clues as water skedaddling new diamond drops imitates flush birds, spraying syllables through showering waterfalls. Mist, scheming language skews, stretches and then stretches, slips and slides through space. Sounds crack, ensconced rapture. Somewhere here, listen to these hair-splitting ruptures. Politicians spew every goddamn day in sad convergences of bad flat notes. As time signatures skip to my loo through lace, grace notes but bloom in poetic lines. Loom post haste, push and zing the voices through sound. Shimmy shango, shimmy shango, shimmy shango, shimmy shango, juxtapose in place where the poets' high energy gymnastics hijack words, switch up in double backs, pivots, crossovers as skywalkers wing word plays deep beyond boundary lines where NBA, you know, LeBron James gunners drop trays, pop cars, drop cards, drop cards, drop cards, create balladic touche, body magic up inside rhyme schemes, rhapsodic. Their body music reflects light as spirits lance curling through prismatic flight. Oh, tell me about it, Air Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James up there in lights, imitating Bird. Bebop, well, you needn't, because great solos are tracer bullet flights. Sun Ra and Coltrane, John Coltrane, breathing solos as they zoom, riding high priest monk riffs into any rooms they play. Brought hijink magic for poets to play. You know, so I put a bloom on this poetic language. Tip, riff, dysglossic, scatology, piss zoom in on a neologic trip, rapology, dripping words of obfuscation, billow plumes, organic dolos, zip through traces of fizz on the rebound of a champagne bliss. So I telescope Hubble inside flues, constantly scope bubbles, link strings of pearls inside champagne glasses, sand clues. My attitude fed by gas rises to the top, floats over blown grass, grows like sassafras. My voice a reverberating echo inside a memory dome. I communicate with my mama, with my mother, break through the fog of old age disconnect. I ask you now, brother, sitting there in that pink suit, where's your boombox? Or your false teeth lost in a drawer somewhere? Is your ego drowning inside an old piss pot, funky as this slick, sick war invented by Chicken Hawk, Neocon, Bushwags, Rumsfeld? And it is just an early morning alarm clock going off for you, sans hard on. A wake-up call, a tall drink of confusion, or you some 2-watt, a dimmer switch, belching gas, ignorant as snuff, a moron looking for a conundrum inside a bait and switch pimp niche. But don't panic just yet, brother. Run out to investigate chromatography, lapis lazuli. Do you think you might need a tad bit of Viagra to get your love thing juiced up out on the dance floor? As you are listening to an echo chamber of words, what was that reverb I heard glancing off those winged syllables that flew by just now? Like birds inside a sentence laced with miles and miles of blue history, stitched with trumpet blasts, obligatos, order it against past abacadabras, running like doodly squats who only drop dimes on the rhythmic line, while some only drop trays from behind set screens. Which one are you, Mr. Flip-Flop? Slow on the crossover? Switching in the kitchen is what I mean to do here. Switching in the kitchen is what I mean to do here. Switching in the kitchen is what I mean to do here. This poem's trying to do a dance on this page, with words, metaphor, and reverb, switching back and forth through rhythm and time signatures, improvising through space, switching up on a dime. My lines trace words, looking for birds, winging through dirges, blue as lady days on strange fruit. I jazz sassafras, telescope Hubble, constantly inside the galaxy. I raise a champagne glass, another one, raise champagne glass.
offer up razzmatazz, rhythms carving out meaning inside language, meaning inside language, images that just might last, images that might last, images that just might last, that might last. Thank you. Where have they all gone to? Those exuberant, edgy misfits, those glorious madcap poets of precise inexactitude, those lunatic purveyors of transcendental flights through space, riding her verbal hijinks, skywalkers of jazzified, hyperbolic scatology. Those rhapsodic sleepwalkers selling screaming jaywalking Hawkins wolf tickets, echoing skull and bone dances of Dahomey voodoo smackdowns, emanating from beyond watery graves of Middle Passage, from all the genocide, of all the genocide, of all the genocide of millions. All the spiritual six-fingered witch doctors brewing up revenge, secreted deep in hidden holes of linguistic thoroughfares. Those sacred red-robed Wilt Chamberlain Messiah spiritual hunters who chase hunters of lines running free around Tanzania. I say, where have all the stark-legged soothsayer space cadets traveled to? Those disciples of sunrise, bamboozling cloudbursts of words. Those smoke signal purveyors of mojo language, hypnotized through music. Those schizophrenic soothsayers practicing loop-de-loop tom-toms. Rhythmic scavengers of esoteric metaphors stitched throughout knuckle-headed sentences illuminated by Charlie Yardbird Parker. Excursions through solos exploring outer limits of scatological space. The loneliest monk comping along as acoustical solar sidekick, riffing off only he knows what mysterioso piano licks he's playing. I say, where have they all gone to? Those insane rollerblade skaters, decked out in silver besto suits and caps, wraparound shades zooming, weaving through Manhattan traffic like Lone Ranger silver bullets. Those slingshot word magicians, loop guru wordsmiths, shooting out rhythms hidden deep in thickets of reared-backed cobra snakes, who flick out hypnotic spells, undulating spellbinding tempos, and seductive dances where beautiful, full-breasted women bob up and down like ripe melons, seducing like honey, lips dripping with sweet, lusting desire, licking, sucking kisses, tongues probing mouths when passion sweeps down, overwhelming the senses. As when her body trembles, explodes. Where has Pamela Donegan gone to with her deep, loving, holy, gripping, sweet, seductive suction cup that caused men to howl anytime they came with her, like mad wolves celebrating the moon? Where has Liama Sarah, Samuel Harris spelled backwards, disappeared to, who sat upon rooftops out in Watts sniffing glue, talking shit to the sun and writing incomprehensible, beautiful poetry? What about stilt-legged, tall and skinny, midnight blue Emory Evans from North Carolina, who walked around Watts wearing a long navy blue wool overcoat in 95-degree weather, wore high-top black tennis shoes, and wrote love poems to ants and broken-winged birds and everything that moved or didn't move? Where have Clyde Mays and Cleveland Sims gone to with their criminal schemes and quixotic, over-the-top poems? So where have all those exuberant, edgy misfits gone to? Those glorious, madcap poets of precise inexactitude, lunatic purveyors of transcendental flights through space, verbal hijinks skywalkers, jazzified hyperbolic scatology, grace, rhapsodic sleepwalkers, selling screaming Jay Hawkins wolf chickens, echoing skull and bone dances of Dahomey voodoo smackdown, emanating from beyond watery graves. I say, where have all the six-fingered witch doctors gone to, whose spirits could not be locked up in a jar, or even this poetry? Have they all gone to chasing erranceties, the sun and moon and stars inside their heads underground? Where are you now, Eric Priestley, who just died a couple of weeks ago? Are you also in the sky? Where are you flying through now, Eric? Our hearts and our mouths, loving you and missing you. Where have they all gone to, those lunatic purveyors of words and sentences? Where have they all gone to? Thank you. Thank you. That was a true poem. Do I start you? Yeah, Derek Walcott. Okay. This is a poem for Derek Walcott, who was my good friend. And I love Derek. I loved his work. And I loved him too. Poem for Derek Walcott. Like a bullet fired through space from the other side. Between light and darkness, you came, Derek, with a poem, sluicing from your lips. Came with words constructing images, sharp as dagger points, penetrating our bodies, our brains and ears, like singing birds do in blushing green mid-morning light. You came into my world like Pablo Neruda's poem, Full Gallop, riding a loping horse with a satchel filled with metaphors, packed with original sly word plays and tricks. Your accented St. Lucian patois, switching back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, switching back and forth between proper, the Queen's English, and colloquial Creole. Expressions both ruminating in your poetic language. Yes, now I hear your foaming sea wave lines flow in here, hissing in Wandolio, Santo Domingo, with accents clipping, chopping, speeding through African-influenced Spanglish, full of salsa rooted in merengue, sluicing voodoo through French. Speak now, marinated in their griot, lambi-based patois, laced inside a kind of African-based French Spanglish. Yes, and it is remarkable how black folks everywhere shape and create language. So I listen to your voice, Derek, in the salty sea speech, rolling in from the Caribbean, then rolling south, thundering, hissing, foaming towards St. Lucia, where your spirit now rests, my brother, in the ground, facing your beloved sea. Then I hear your raspy voice calling out to me from where you sleep in the ground. Listen here, don't fuck up this tribute poem to me, Quincy, 'cause you know I'm a Nobel Prize-winning poet, and you are not, motherfucker. And don't you ever forget that, goddammit. Then I hear that sneaky voice of yours break into a gaggle of raspy giggles, almost a rush of chuckles, you lark, cracking your small little mound of a stomach, shaking, it was shaking it with side-splitting laughter, your sea green eyes laughing so very hard causes rivers of tears to burst and then run down, splashing your ruddy light brown face. Run down, splashing, washing your ruddy light brown face. Oh. I thought somebody was sneaking up on me. You know, being from St. Louis, you're always looking for somebody to try to hurt you, you know, growing up like we did. These are two poems. I'm trying to create forms now in some poems. So I created these poems called 7-11 skills. You know, we used to shoot dice, you know, when I was growing up in St. Louis. You know, 7 you win, 11 you win. So that's the whole idea. And then the poem is a form. The 7 starts out with 7 syllables, 7, 11, 7 syllables like that for 7 lines. And the 11 starts out with 11 syllables, alternating 11, 7 like that till the 11 lines. I know y'all don't need it. Y'all don't care nothing about that shit, but I do as a poet. This is 2 new 7-11s in rhyme. This is a 7. Train wheels spin over steel, tracks and voices of moaning, deep blues wailing through the air. You think you feel paths of history as bad news carrying tales of skulls crunched under heels. When humans refuse to see greed as warning, war is clues to kill with zeal. 11. In New York, during winter, blanketing white snow is transformed to dirt black sorrow. When days carry blues into singing, plaintive through people who track voices like wheels spinning on ice, grinding syllabic whine of pack rats clawing nights through garbage cans, close air freezing above it all. A man hacks, spits out a trumpet blast from somewhere, cooing sounds of lovebirds in the sack. Yes, up in Harlem, wind is a razor slashing. This is a poem, and then you can play it. This is a poem called Chasing Words and Lines. It's for Toni Morrison. I start. I am dreaming, thinking of sluicing words, structured into lines stretching across pages. And they remind me of newborn bloody babies pulled from wounds of fecund imaginations. When poets chase metaphors of painters as painters, translate colors into rhythms of musicians, voices plucked from grapes clustered in vines, find their place in fine wines on dinner tables. And they are shaped into contours of the world. Yes, they are echoes, seeds popping from the ground as flowers, memories stitched through poems as words, lyrics, songs of Bono, or leaps of faith, as in so deep narratives sewn into our lives, into Toni Morrison's books. Her sentences are blues underlining broken shards, razor sharp as jazz, and they will cut you badly if you're not ready to hear the sure enough truth. But there is a sweetness here too in Toni's blues. Her vision, full of grace beyond happenstance, is a fertile place tracing America's past in history, shaped by bloodletting firing squads of race, to lay one's head down onto a pillow and listen to the truth defining falsehoods American historians serve up on forked tongues, laced with cyanide in race-baiting narratives. But Toni cut through all duplicitous bullshit with a voice clear as a sword's beheading fools. In her works of fiction, essays, and public speeches, she once said, "Art is dangerous," and left no doubt who she was listening to. Miles Davis, Angela Davis, John Coltrane, William Faulkner, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Lucille Clifton, Toni Cade Bambara, Ella Fitzgerald, Jimmy Baldwin, Amiri Baraka, the silver-gloved wizard, Henry Dumas, Sonia Sanchez, street voices she grew up listening to in Lorain, Ohio. The down-home language of black women fixing hair in their kitchens, black beauty parlors Saturdays, Sunday morning go to church, hand-clapping rituals, shouting out the gospel of laying on of hands, in sacred river baptismal ceremonies, serving as doorways for initiates to pass through, to kiss now and greet spiritual ancestors in white robes. And it's where your spirit, Toni Morrison, just flew to, accompanied by hand clapping, singing black choirs, belting out hallelujahs and praise be to your name. while cooing birds trilled lines of your prose, flapping wings, and then we heard the word Excelsior, Tony. Excelsior, Tony. Excelsior. We got one more. Not it? Did it beat? Just think about it. Sometimes all you need do is open up a door. Walk through it, perhaps out into open space. Walk into the world, whether it's cold or warm. And then go, and then you go, and then you go. Whatever direction your mind of Arancides takes you. But go quickly or slowly, but move resolutely through this moment with your eyes wide open, your wandering brain. But move forward towards something perhaps you haven't thought to do before. You haven't thought to do before. Whatever it is, let there be beauty here. Let there be beauty in it, spreading light, meaning. Now open up yourself to new music. People, vistas, spontaneous improvisation of the day. Rhythms carrying possibilities to unlock secrets of this moment. Then perhaps that will lead you to look into things people you never focused on before. You never focused on before. Then you walk through the door. Perhaps the opening will reveal yourself to yourself, finally. It will reveal yourself, perhaps the opening will reveal yourself to yourself. Revelation, 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 revelation. Reveal yourself to yourself. Perhaps now, you might feel different for the rest of your life. Yes, now you might feel different for the rest of your life. Now you might feel different for the rest of your life. Revelation, revelation. Open up yourself. Open up yourself. Perhaps now you might feel different. Feel different for the rest of your life. For the rest of your life. Now you might feel different for the rest of your life. For the rest of your life. Revelation, revelation, revelation. Just think about it. Revelation. You might feel different for the rest of your life. Thank you. Thank you. No.
Quincy Troupe will join us for a book signing following tonight's program, and you can purchase your copy of Duende Poems 1966 to Now from our Schomburg shop, which is right around the corner from where you entered the Schomburg, as well as online at schomburgshop.com.